And let me just see who has come and joined us. We have got, this is when I need my glasses because it just doesn't work so well. We've got somebody who's on calling in, and then Elaine. Elaine, is that right? Is that Alan? Is it Alan or Elaine? I'm English, so I often.
You can chat, folks. By the way, if Liz asks or I ask you something or whatever, just chat. So whoever that is, of course, you may still need your glasses to read what they.
That's very true. Well, my glasses are right here, so if I need them, I'll take them. But anyway, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
Oh my God.
Doing this with you tonight.
Oh, it's going to be a fun evening, I know, because I know that you and we've spoken quite a lot about, you know, the different aspects of your work, and you know, we've kind of worked together for quite a bit, so it's really lovely to actually have this opportunity for me to kind of be on the inside and really get an understanding of what you do.
I know, right?
And get a little taster as well. I think I love it. I'm very excited by it.
I mean, it occurs to me that you should tell folks, my folks, I don't think they know too much about Connect to Coach, and it occurs to me, let me turn the tables on you. You want to just tell them a little bit about the company and why we're working together?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I would love that. Absolutely. So thank you very much. So nice to have the tables turned on me. I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. So Connect to Coach. Connect to Coach. I was a coach for 10 years, and I really loved coaching. And when I came over to this country, I decided to set up a company called Connect to Coach, and I did it because what I discovered was that there was a lot of people that really wanted to find a good coach, and they wanted to find a coach, but they didn't know necessarily where to look. They didn't know who the best person to go to was, and if they were the right person for them. So I created a coach match system where I match. What I do is I work with coaches that are certified coaches that are, you know, a really high quality coach, and you, my dear, you definitely fit that bill. So then what we do is we connect those coaches with the clients. We base it on what the what the coach is what the client is actually looking for, but also we have a coach match system. So that's what we do. We connect coaches with clients.
It's very exciting. Yes, a matchmaking service.
Yeah, it is. It's so funny because people kind of they think of it. They say, "Oh, is it a bit like dating?" And I'm like, not really. No, well, it kind of is in a way. It kind of, I guess, if you put it into the parameters of, and I don't know if we should mention names, but hey, we can mention names. So, like Plenty of Fish. There's a lot of people out there. Like you can just go in there, and you know you might get lucky, but you might not. You might have to kiss an awful lot of frogs before you find that one person.
That's right.
And then there's that real matchmaking service, which is like, oh, tell us about you. We're going to take a profile and then we're going to match you. Yes. So that's kind of what, in a way, that's kind of what Connect to Coach does.
Yes, it does. And I'm honored to be your creative coach. I think, what I do, as a lot of folks know, is I'm a focus coach. I'm a focus coach for creative entrepreneurs. And when I say creative entrepreneurs, what I mean by that, it could be someone who's an app developer. It could be someone who composes opera. It could be a performer. It could be an actor who's developed some kind of a psychodrama thing they take into corporations to resolve workplace issues. I've got fascinating clients. So, Liz has been very helpful when she finds people who she thinks might need me. They seem particularly scattered. I hope, anyway, she sends them my way. That is what I try to do. I help scattered creative entrepreneurs pull it together so they can make more money.
I love that. I love that. And I love the idea because I think a lot of creatives, because there's so much going on for them, they really, they can be really quite scattered. It's like, oh yeah, and then there's this idea and then there's that idea and there's another idea. And it's like, and which one? And when you've got your energy all over the place like that, how do you bring it together and focus and And you are going to tell us the secret.
That's exactly right. That's what this is all about tonight.
I love it.
Should I take it away? What do you think?
No, well, before you do, I'd like to just ask you a couple of questions, if I can.
Please go for it. I'm kind of like.
You're champing at the bit, girl. You just want to get going. It's like, okay, let's go.
Hell yeah. But go ahead, ask me.
So I want to ask you, what actually led you to be a coach?
Okay, good. Well, what led me to be a coach was I'm an actress originally. I'm a theater artist. I was an actress for 30 years in New York City. I'm a playwright. I did stand-up comedy professionally for 6 years, and I struggled a lot to do all kinds of things to stay afloat. I was a personal chef. I taught yoga. I did a myriad receptionist gigs, temp agencies, got fired a lot. I was a restaurant hostess, and one thing that kept me going as a performer or a playwright was community. I had an instinct for pulling people together in groups and helping so that we could all identify goals and move towards accomplishing them. And at a certain point, I had a group going that was inspired by witchcraft. Barbara Scher was probably my first mentor. I've never met her, but that book was seminal for me. And I created a team based on her teachings. And one person became a DJ, another person opened a bookstore. And my husband said, you should start charging. And I thought he had a point, because I was really starting to burn out on all of these various things I was trying to do and have a career. So I got some training. I was trained in creativity coaching with Eric Maisel, and then I got my ICF certification through the ADHD Coach Academy. And the way I ended up there was a mentor coach of mine recommended it, and my feeling was, if I can coach people with ADHD, I can coach anybody. And it's also a match, it really is a good fit in terms of the creative brain wiring. And as it turns out, several of the people I love most in my life have been diagnosed with ADHD. So I just seem to attract it, I just pull it towards me. And I guess it excites me greatly. It's my mission, in a sense, to help people laser focus their power and bring their visions into the world. And that's what I do with my clients. I like to think I do that with my clients.
I love that. I think that's so powerful to, that passion that you have for your clients is just, and what you actually do with them. I think it's exciting, and I want to know more. So I'm going to stop talking, and I would love to, because you answered quite a few. I had a couple of other questions, but you kind of actually I've answered them. So that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So I would like to hand it over to you.
All right. So what I'm going to do then, folks, is I'm going to first of all go and share my screen, and there'll be a little bit of TMI initially. Let me get back to Zoom, because you're going to see more of my screen than I want you to, probably. Let's see here. Where is it? Aha! Share screen. And now I will start ye old slideshow. And so here we are. Did you see that, Elizabeth? Is that up for you?
That's perfect.
Lovely. Is it a business or a hobby? That is the question. 3 steps to having a real career. All righty. And as we were saying, I'm a certified life coach, certified ADHD coach. My company is called Creative Calling Coaching, and I had many, many years experience as an actor in New York City, and I'm a published playwright. So that's a little about me. And here's the thing. As I was saying, everybody I work with feels pulled in 50 directions. I feel pulled in 50 directions, and I love dogs, in case you hadn't noticed. I thought that little image kind of brought that home. And what happens when you're pulled in 50 directions is, very often, especially if you are married, if you have a kid, all right, if you have a full-time job that is helping you support your endeavor as a creative entrepreneur. So often what you really want to do, your heart's desire ends up on the back burner. And so this made me laugh with our new uncommitted stove. You can put everything on the back burner. Well, that is not what I want you to do. So again, what happens when we are pulled in 50 directions? Let's say that that is what it is, that rock right in the middle. That's what you want to be doing in your life, all right? And again, with the dogs, you have the sled dogs going. This is Newton's law of motion. They're not going anywhere because there are all these counter intentions at play. So the first thing I do when I work with people is get them really clear about what it is they want to do. And then I help them proceed with the next 3 steps. And just so you know, folks, this is going to give you hopefully a really good starting point, but I want to make this really valuable to you. So I want to give you something to do next once we finish the webinar, because everybody's 3 steps, well, you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a conversation with me, but enough about that, more later. Well, that's the first step. Guess what? Do one thing at a time. Well, how the hell can you possibly do one thing at a time? There's a reason I chose the runway image, and that is because if you think of a runway, you think of all those planes lined up on it. Think about what would happen if they took off all at once. It wouldn't be pretty. There is this idea that we can multitask, but in truth, we are never really multitasking. To do anything, you have to, even if it's for a microsecond, stop what you're doing and shift your focus to something else.
So, Rahti, I want to ask you something. Yeah. What's actually wrong with multitasking? I mean, what actually happens to us when we multitask?
I think when we're multitasking, even though we're just doing one thing at a time, and I love that question, by the way, I think what happens is we are staying in a place of indecision. We are juggling, trying to keep all these balls in the air instead of choosing to really follow through on one thing and do it well. So that's why it's important to clear the decks sometimes and give yourself time and space to work on your business, to work on your art, whatever. Because if you're trying to fit little tiny pieces in, you can never go deep. You know, you're making dinner for the kids and doing this and that, and then, all right, when everybody goes to sleep, I'll be able to do a little painting. No, you'll be fried. You'll want to watch TV. So one thing at a time means one thing completed at a time also. Sometimes I think people try to multitask by having 5 projects going at once. You know, it's possible, I think, for things to overlap, but in the end, you're putting your deadlines in your calendar so that the plane that's up on the tarmac is whatever is happening soonest and next. Doesn't mean that you're not planning ahead for things, but it really has to do with training yourself to not worry about anything else, sort of leave it in the pocket, in the parking lot. Because a lot of people I work with don't finish things because they didn't ever learn to give anything a priority. When you give something a priority, you give it a chance to launch. You give yourself a chance to finish it.
So what you say is by giving things a priority, by prioritizing what is important, you know, what's necessary for today, for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then that's when you can actually accomplish more.
Absolutely. It may not feel that way, but there is nothing so satisfying as finishing something. To me, that's success, having something that you birth and bring into the world. And there's nothing so demoralizing as never finishing anything, because you start to believe you can't. All right. But, you know, we have to learn to make choices. all right? And that's, again, where I come in, because everyone's choices are going to be different. So hang into the webinar, and a little later, I will give you an opportunity to start to specify for yourself what it is that you need to do in your business or career with the 3 steps that I'm teaching you tonight. So do one thing at a time, folks. I think I can move on. Any questions in the chat, Elizabeth?
Not at this moment in time.
Okay, well, folks, feel free to just, if you have a question, just type it into the chat, because Elizabeth is going to do things like that.
I'm right here.
Just interrupt me, obviously, because I want to pay attention to that.
I will.
So here we go. The second step, once you decide on that first thing you're going to do, you have decided on which plane is going to launch. The trick to launching it is taking consistent action. And I love this quote by Aristotle: we are what we consistently do. Excellence is therefore not an act, but a habit. Yeah. And what happens in a lot of careers, I notice, is people take shots at things. We take shots at things. All right, well, as an actor, maybe I should pound the pavement. I'll go out and knock on a bunch of, I'm going to knock on a bunch of agents' doors, and a few people might be nice, a few people might be mean. I might not hear. And then I start doing something else and decide that that doesn't work, right? That's not taking consistent action. To me, that's one of the things that distinguishes a business from a hobby. In business, there are things you do over and over and over again. I do speaking over and over and over again so that people get to know who I am. I go to networking events. There are certain actions that I choose and I repeat over at least 90 days. You can't even stop doing it for 90 days. You can't even look over your shoulder to see if it's worthwhile for 90 days, because you have to get at least that much consistency under your belt with anything that you're doing. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the actions, and pardon the strangeness of the formatting on this page. Action, little bitty actions are, well, these actions that you're going to take, they are going to be profitable. I put profitable. Interesting. Did I put profitable? Well, yes, ultimately they're going to be profitable. But more within your control is them being quantifiable and interactive. The 3 things they need to be, I'm not sure why profitable is up there, frankly, that comes later. They need to be quantifiable, interactive, and in real time, meaning not just email. It's quantifiable. Say you're going to go to 3 job interviews a week or a month. Maybe say 3 job interviews a month, okay? So that's a goal that you've set for yourself. Maybe it has to do with asking for 3 meetings with people to talk about, bringing the app you're developing into their company, right? Or you have, getting arts organizations to listen to you talk about funding something that you're developing. But 3 quantifiable things that are going to take you out of your comfort zone, basically, all right? And they have to, as I was saying, interactive. They have to be interactive. Picking up the phone counts big time, all right? You can email someone and say, I'd like to get in touch with you. I'll be calling you. But that is not an ask, as it were. I think in business we call that an ask for a conversation, right? That is the prelude to asking for a conversation. When you ask for a conversation, you need to pick up the phone and dial a phone number. So for instance, I reach out by either text or phone. Text, if you're not feeling too gutsy, I think is acceptable because it's in real time and it's interactive. I reach out to at least 20 people a week by text or phone to find places to speak, or people who I have on my mailing list who may be interested in working for me. So again, your particular actions are going to be particular to what it is that you're trying to do. And that's what I can give you help with and tell you how to get that help at the end of the evening here. And so again, quantifiable, interactive, and in real time, preferably face-to-face. Even the best is if you can see someone, like if you can do it through video conferencing or in person, that's best. Second best is by phone. Third best, I suppose, would be texting, okay? Because it stands out for one thing. We get massive amounts of email every day. Who cares, right? It's passive. So that's step number 2. Now, yeah,
Rahti,
you go for it. Yes.
before you go on,
Yeah.
Stephanie just asked a question. She
Good.
said, is it better to become a master of what you are really skilled at, or to add a totally new, unfamiliar skill to your toolbox and learn from scratch?
Well, it depends on what you want, Stephanie. It depends on what you want. You know, if you want something and you know that the skills that you need to have to attain it are not yours, you either have to find someone to help you and take care of that part of the thing for you, or you have to learn how to do it. But it's all about what you want. You know, wanting is powerful. So if you're saying, should I stay doing, can give me a little more specifics, first of all, because there's a choice lingering behind that question. Can you type in what, for instance, your choice is at this moment?
So Stephanie, can you type it in? We're still waiting.
That's okay. Well, I'm going to just make it up as I go along unless we hear back from her. But I'm thinking if Stephanie is really, really good at teaching yoga and she has a certification as a yoga teacher and she's doing that, but what she really wants to do is be a writer. Should she give up the dream of being a writer just because she doesn't yet know how to break into that, and just because she knows how to teach yoga, she should just keep doing that the rest of her life? No. At the same time, that yoga practice is what a mentor coach of mine once called a patron of her art. You don't want to ditch the baby with the bathwater. You want to keep that yoga practice going, okay? That's your A job for the time being, while you cultivate the skills you need to develop your B job. Say it's a writer, or maybe you want to blog for money, you know. You're going to need to keep some income coming, you need to have your baseline income, but you may need to gain skills for being a writer. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
So she was just saying that, you know, for an example would be, you know, being great at singing, but likes to write too, and not sure if it was worth learning the writing to have a career.
Well, you know, I think you can do both. You know, I mean, but you may need to sequence it. You may need to sequence it, right? What I mean by that is we get back to the tarmac again. We get back to the airplanes, all right? So maybe this is the year of the singing career, all right? And maybe you start to fold in writing in 2018. Or you flip it. You start with the writing now, okay? And you plan to have that as part of your life. The other way you can go about it is you can look at your life structure and just designate, you know, a coach of mine calls it your peanut butter and jelly job. Your peanut butter is what is going to, you know, bring in income, right? The jelly, you don't want to abandon it, right? So, or your peanut butter and jelly vocation. You can say, okay, I'm going to spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday writing, and then I'm going to make sure I have a whole day on the weekend to work on my singing, whatever. But choices need to be made. It's not like one is better than the other if you decide you want to move both forward, right? Again, that's a personal thing. It depends on what you want. Do you want a business or a hobby?
So what she's what she said was she thinks she can understand. So if the two skills overlap,
Yeah,
then it's a time well spent, since one can possibly feed into the other.
sure. Sure. I'd be curious to know exactly what it is she's trying to do.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I think
something
I
we
think
can talk about later if Stephanie wants to hang in there, and I'll give her an
yeah,
opportunity to
and
talk to
I
me.
absolutely more than I
Yeah,
think it's a great idea.
yeah. But so anyway, yeah, I'm not a believer. I refuse to choose when it comes to doing the things I want in life. But you do have to choose where you're putting your time and focus at any given moment. All right. And that's really what these steps are about. So we have doing one thing at a time, we have consistent actions, really crafting consistent actions that are interactive and take you out among the people, right? And here's the third where the magic happens and what really distinguishes a business from a hobby. All right. And for a lot of people, it's way out of their comfort zone. Ask for money. If you're not getting paid, it's a hobby. I mean, I understand in the arts, and this really kind of pisses me off. Uh, so often we're asked to work for little or no money. But at a certain point, there has to be some form of currency. If you're going to be doing something, for instance, I'm digressing a little bit, if you're doing a reading, you want to either have it be something that can give you good exposure. There's a director or someone attached to the reading who you want to work with and develop a relationship with, in which case it becomes a networking opportunity, or you want to be getting paid. There has to be compensation, okay, for it to be business. All right. And we're going to talk about fiscal currency. I mean, ultimately, that's what's up. All right.
So I just want to ask, but why wouldn't people ask for money? I mean, for what they do, I don't understand why they wouldn't.
Well, for instance, I used to do podcasts a lot, and they were a lot of fun. But there was no ROI. There was no return on the investment. And I found after a while I was putting a lot of time and energy into it, but I wasn't converting people into clients from it. And so I realized that's a hobby. When I do a webinar like this, I am hoping to give value to people, but I'm also letting people know I'm alive out here to be hired as a coach. All right. So I can see a connection. There is a return on the investment. Actors, not so much musicians. Musicians expect to get paid. It's very interesting. Actors will work for free all day. It's really scary because there's so much competition in the industry, right? Crafting an acting career, that's a very special thing and takes a lot of boundaries. But ultimately, as an actor, you need to ask for money. You have to find out what's the budget. That's number 3. We'll start there. Find out the budget. If there is some money to be had, at a certain stage, you go ahead. I think we all have to reach a point in our careers and vocations where we stop doing work for free. As an actress, at a certain point, I reached that. I would not work for free.
It's so funny. So you talking about that, it reminds me of a saying I once heard, and I really took it to heart, which is, where there's no value, there's no value. So it's almost like when you don't ask for money, you're not valuing yourself.
True.
And when you don't value yourself, then there's that whole level of then other people kind of can easily echo that.
And it makes it worse for everybody else, really. You know what I mean? We all, I guess that's what unions are about. If they can get people to work for free, they will, right? but also, you know, the currency can be experienced for a while. When you're a young actor or you're a young artist of any kind, you're going to do all kinds of things for the experience. But at a certain point, you've got it, right? And that next level is having the nerve to ask for money. And then, you know, you go into a project and turns out there's no budget. You have to be able to walk away and say no, all right? Now, getting into more service-oriented things that people might be doing as creative entrepreneurs, people who are editors, for instance, or do copywriting for people. This is where it's really important to figure out what you're charging, figuring out what the market will bear, make an offer, and then shut up. So many times people ask for money and then they start negotiating themselves down before the other person has even said anything, right? So in asking for money, first of all, you find out if there's an investment. Often I will ask people, are you ready to invest in coaching? If they're not, I have to hear that. Maybe they don't understand the value of it. I may need to talk to them a little longer. If you're going to give your editorial services to someone, for instance, you want to ask them. So, you know, it's an investment. I'm going to tell you, and here's the point number 2 is talk about what you do actually before you give them a rate. All right? You talk about what you do. All right? And then, because if you don't talk about what you do before you actually make the offer and ask for the money, so in future I will flip this in this slide, people have no basis of understanding its value. That's why when people contact me for a session and say, what are your rates? I always say, I don't talk rates up front. I want you to have, because I don't, you know, I want you to understand a little more about what I do before I start talking money. Not only that, but everybody's situation is different, right? You may have different things that you can do for people at different rates. So finding out the budget becomes very important then, because the way in which you're able to work with someone changes then depending on how much money they have to invest. Are there any questions coming up in the chat or anything to clarify around that?
1 minute. So how much, yeah, so Stephanie, thank you, Stephanie. It's so lovely asking these questions. Go girl. What she says is, so how much should you tell them about what you will do before you risk giving away the farm without pay?
Good question, Stephanie. Good question. Well, you know, for me, okay, we'll take coaching, for example, because that's what I do. Someone comes to me for a coaching consultation. I ask them a lot of questions to find out what it is they need, what it is that they want or expect from coaching. And I will talk a little bit about the way I work. And while I want them to get value even from a single conversation with me, I'm not going to give away the farm, as you say. I might tell them, if you were to work with me, these are the things that we would accomplish together. I would describe the plan. This is where it's a good idea to have a methodology, right? I will say to them, we are going to figure out, we're going to look at your schedule. We're going to look at your life 360. We're going to look at what your priorities are in your life and what it is you want to be doing, and we're going to create an action plan. All right. We may talk a little in a consultation about what stopped them, why they haven't done what they've done yet, and that will give me more information on whether or not I can coach them, first of all, and what it is I would be coaching them on. I'm not going to try to solve their problem in the conversation, though. So without knowing more about the specifics of your situation, I'm not sure how more to answer that.
So before you go on, I just want to ask a question. So what are some good ways to bring up that money conversation?
Okay, so you've talked about what you do, and you get to the point where you say to the person, so, I mean, does this sound like what you're looking for? And they say yes. And you say, well, then, shall I get you enrolled?
Right.
And then shut up.
Right. Got it. Yeah, because it's so often you step in and you go, because you're waiting for the comeback that says, well, yes, but, well, that's, so you just like preempt that comeback, I guess.
And I think the best thing to do is to just know there will be a comeback, and not, when I go into a conversation with people about coaching, it's taken me a long time to learn this, but I let go of any attachment. You can't be attached to whether or not they hire you. All you can do is really enjoy them, if that makes sense. Really listen to them. And hopefully illustrate to them how what it is that you do is going to make their life better. Right? So they've come to you for a service for a reason. If they could do it themselves, they would have. All right.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes more than one conversation. This is something I've had to learn too, and that's called a sales cycle. Very often, I mean, sometimes I have a single conversation with people and they book right away, and it's great and it's exciting. Other times I have to talk to them a couple of times, 3 times, 4 times, so that they're feeling safe to give me their credit card number, right? You have to let go of the neediness. That's why it's so important to have a way, first of all, of having your baseline income covered, whether it is investments or a spouse or a day job, a regular job, or, for instance, I know film directors who direct a lot of TV commercials. They come to me because they want to work on narrative filmmaking, right? So that when you start to pitch, you're not desperate, because God knows nobody wants to be anywhere near that.
No, desperate is not sexy.
No.
In any shape or form.
Anybody else asking anything in there?
Nope, that's it for now.
Because these are a few more things to remember. You're going to ask them if they'd like to enroll and shut up. They're going to ask you what you charge. You're going to state your rate and shut up. But here's the thing. Stating your rate doesn't mean that you cannot negotiate. Especially like if you really want to work with someone, it's good to have different plans. Like, for instance, people can pay me. I like to be paid up front all at once. Who doesn't? If people need longer to pay, I may let them pay on a monthly basis. They may end up in the end paying a little more, but they are able to stretch those payments out. To have a few plans like that is good. You may want to give people a bit of a discount or a sliding scale, in which case it's good to know your bottom line and just not go under it, right? And that is something, again, is going to be very particular to you and your market and your field. So it's never the end of the conversation, all right? And obviously you have not closed the sale until you get the digits, until you get the credit card number, right? Until the money has been submitted. That's the thing about asking for money. Until the contract is signed, all right? You're still engaging in sales. Until, right? I mean, actors, as actors, we always used to say, you don't have the job till the curtain goes up. Isn't that terrible? And, that at least you will get paid under such horrible circumstances.
That's harsh.
Isn't it harsh? But, that's the nature of that business, all right? It's tough. It's a tough business. But things to remember is you stay in the conversation. That's all. And know your bottom line. When you're going to know at a certain point if someone's just kicking the tires, right? You can say, well, I hear you've got a lot of reservations. Why don't we talk again in a couple of months? Put it in your calendar and you follow up, all right? You got to have boundaries around your time. You have to have boundaries around your money. So are there any questions about those little guidelines there?
Nothing as yet.
So far what we have is doing one thing at a time, taking consistent, quantifiable, interactive actions, and asking for money. If you are engaged in those 3 steps, you're in business.
So
you are out of hobby and in business.
I love that. I love that. And that is so true. You know, that differentiator between a hobby and a business is just critical for life, actually.
Yeah,
So we have a
absolutely.
question here, which is 2 questions actually. How long before you let it go and move on? And you know, so kind of like, you know, how many times do you try before you bite? And it's interesting. I'd love to hear your opinion, and I've got
Sure.
my opinion on that as well.
Yeah.
And so why don't you answer? Why don't you start with that one, and then we'll.
That's interesting. And that's the kind of thing. Actually, I have a group program called the Creative Entrepreneur Success Club, and I teach a lot about those skills. But how long do you let it go on? At a certain point, you put people on a list, I think, where you let them know when you're doing something like this, a webinar. You keep them in the loop whenever you're doing something, right? You're not going to bombard them with emails. They may not even want to be on your mailing list. But you just every few months check in with them, right? I don't think that hurts.
No, I'd agree with you. Actually, I think that's very key. I mean, I remember people saying, you know, you need to have, I think it's like seven or 8, you know, sometimes you can go to like 7 or 8 times of
That's right.
connecting with somebody until they, you know, and there's different levels. I mean, you know, what's right for one person isn't necessarily. So for example, working with you, if we take that example, I mean,
Yeah.
there's being here on the webinar, which is one way of working with you. And of course, another way is the group program you were talking about. And then of course, another way is going to be one-on-one.
That's
So
right.
there's 3 different ways that people can interact with you, and probably a lot more as well. But those are the ones that are popping into my mind because, you know, and I know that your group program is a phenomenal. I mean, I've been fascinated by that and tempted, I must say.
I'm
And
having a ball with it, I have to tell you. And what I would, oh God, brain fart. That was something I wanted to say. And if it really matters, it'll come back to me. But oh yeah, I know what it is. I have had people who have been on my mailing list and have followed my newsletters, and they've been on it for years before they get in touch with me. I've had people who've had consultations with me, and I haven't heard from them. And 3 years later, they call me again, and they're ready to work.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
I hear you. And there's a time and a place, and sometimes, you know, you gotta trust in you and trust in what you do and just keep going.
That's right. And that's my little thank you gift going to be also, folks, for tuning in on this Finding Your Calling, 7 steps to knowing exactly what you want. No, exactly what to do next. 7 steps to knowing exactly what to do next.
I'm excited. I want to know more.
Yeah. Well, I think right now it's more important than ever. Because I don't know, I don't care what side of the election you're on. This has been such an emotional time. Knowing how to touch base with yourself and your purpose, it's like taking a shower. You don't do it once. You got to do it every day, all right? And there are ways to do that every day. There are ways to do that in every situation. Find what it is that you're supposed to be doing. What is the contribution you are to be making in any given situation? That has a lot to do with the work I do, because when you're in touch with that, you are open to opportunities with regard to your business or career that you might not have seen otherwise. So I'm curious to see what the next slide is. What's next? Yeah, what's next? I kept talking about how we could get more personal with the folks. And So I've decided I want to make an offer to the first 7 people who text this phone number with this code, checkup. I'm going to give a free career checkup to the first 7 people who text my lovely assistant, Floor, with that code. And she'll get in touch with you and schedule a time to speak to me one-on-one so we can really take a look at your particular situation, what the 3 consistent actions are that you need to be taking, and how it is you can start to shift into more of a business mindset around what you're doing. So I'm hoping that folks will certainly take advantage of that. Oh, click to exit the presentation. So that is it. I'm actually going to leave that last screen up. I think that's important because I want people to have that. Are you still seeing that? I think I have to go into slideshow mode for you to see it all big and beautiful. There it is.
That's okay. We can see it, and I put all that information in the chat box.
Oh, please. Yes. Thank you. Thanks. Are there any other questions, or how are we doing? We still have 10 minutes. My goodness.
I know. There we go. I know. It's exciting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really learned a lot from, I think that keeping it simple, keeping focused. And I know that for myself, I'm one of these people that I can go down rabbit holes, super quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a lot of other things. And for me, just really having a list at the beginning of the day and having a list at the end of the day really helps me. But is there any other little thing that you could recommend for any listeners?
Sure. Well, once you know what those 3 regular actions are that you're going to be taking on a consistent basis, there's a wonderful tool called the Self Journal. Actually, I use Self Journal, and I actually have if you go to my Facebook page, facebook.com / Creative Calling Coaching, and scroll down, you'll find a link where you can purchase the Self Journal. And what I like about it, it doesn't have to be that particular system, but it's really important, I think, to keep your 3 90-day goals right in front of your face every day. And when you schedule your time each day, you need to be able to reference those goals and really notice whether what you're spending time on is going to cumulatively result in where you want to go. Yeah. Because so many times we spend time on the wrong things. So those are the 2 things. That's what I would say. Keep what it is that you want to accomplish front and center, and look at how you're spending your time day to day, and assess honestly whether what you're spending time on is going to amount to what it is you want to achieve. And if it's not, you've got some explaining to do. You've got some digging, some rearranging to do. There are probably boundaries missing in your life around your time. All right. That's what comes to mind offhand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's interesting because I think, we're at this time of year, we're kind of winding down to an end, and, thinking about the things that we said we were going to do and we didn't quite do because of one, and there's a gazillion and one excuses that have come up. Or why didn't I track my numbers, or why didn't I make those 20 calls in a week, or why, whatever it happens to be, that we've kind of set ourselves up for that goal. And I think the excuses are a big part of it.
And accountability is a big part of it. Being isolated.
Oh my God, accountability is key.
Yeah.
It really is key. And that for me is the gold about having a coach. When you have somebody that, you know, for me to say to you, you know, yes, I'm going to do this by this time, and you're there and you're holding my hand and you're going, hey, Elizabeth, did you do that? You know, you said you were going to do it, and if not, okay, so let's look at what happened. And there's no recrimination, there's no feeling bad, but it's just that, it's just having that really gentle but firm support on your back. And
well, especially when you are an entrepreneur, when you know, when you are working for yourself, when you have a lot of ADHD, people with ADHD run their own businesses because they have a very unique brain wiring. Creatives have very unique brain wiring, need to do things their way, but then their downfall is isolation.
yeah,
Right? You
that
you
makes
gotta have people care whether you get up in the morning, you know? You gotta have deadlines, places to show up to, people to show up for. And that's also something I do in my group. I set people up with accountability partners because company is stronger than will.
I've not heard that before, but that makes total sense.
It is. That's my experience.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So I'm hoping, folks, I'm hoping Flora's getting texts from some of you right now with CHKP in the message so that she can get in touch with you, because I'm really looking forward to speaking to you and seeing how we can get you moving forward a little more. And I have to say, especially in these strange times, how passionate I am about knowing what it is I'm here to do and helping people further their mission. Because that is how we're going to prevail, by being visible. We're not going anywhere. Our work is going to be seen. We are going to continue to change the conversation with what it is that we are doing and creating. It is really more important than ever, in my opinion, for people to succeed and to assert themselves professionally, you know. So I'm very excited about that, excited about what I do, so grateful to have a calling.
Yeah, no, I think it's powerful, for sure. And Stephanie, I know she was saying that she has definitely signed up.
Oh, I can't wait. Delightful.
It's exciting. I love it. All right, my dear. So I kind of feel that we probably are at a point now where we need to kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
So, is there any words of wisdom that you would like to leave the listeners with?
Well, words of wisdom. Oh, so many platitudes fly to mind. Well, it's only over when it's over. You haven't failed until you quit. There's one, blah, blah, blah. If everybody likes you, you must be doing something wrong, to quote the great Betty Davis. That's what I would say. Isolation, as my mentor coach says, isolation is the enemy of success. So let's connect.
I love it. Rahti, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom tonight. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed learning from you as well.
Thank you.
And those 3 keys, just powerful. I mean, simple but powerful. And I love the analogy of the airplane. I think that was really cool.
Yeah, yes, a very dear, very wise, brilliant friend of mine taught that to me, and it's never left. It served me well. And many of my clients, it served very well.
Wonderful. All right. Okay. So we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
And thank you everybody for joining us. And please text. Here, let me read it out to you in case you can't see it. It's CH. Okay. So this is the number you need to text. Hang on a second. Let me do it this way around. So the number is 646-458-1515. So that's the number. I'm going to say it again. 646-458-1515. And what you need to text are the letters C for Charlie, H for hotel, K for kilo, and P for Peter. So CHKP. All right.
Very
Look forward
good.
to connecting with you soon.
Thank you. Good night. Good night, everybody.